For over half a century, Canada has been a world leader in the production, use, and development of life-saving medical isotopes. The world is counting on Canada to expand this leadership role to support the diagnosis and treatment of cancer, ensuring medical equipment is safe for use, and to tackle some of our greatest challenges in health sciences. Welcome to the Canadian Nuclear Isotope Council's Isotopes for Hope podcast with your host, James Scongack, Chair of the CNIC. In this series, we interview Canadian leaders who are making a difference every day. We hope you enjoy this episode of the Isotopes for Hope podcast.
So on today's Isotopes for Hope podcast, I'm really thrilled to have a great friend of the isotope community, the President and CEO of Bruce Power, Mike Rencheck. Mike Rencheck serves as the President and CEO of Bruce Power, and Bruce Power provides 1/3 of Ontario's electricity and is one of the world-leading providers in the supply of medical isotopes. In 2020, Mike was named the CEO of the Year by the Ontario Chamber of Commerce as part of the Ontario Business Achievement Awards. Mike previously served, prior to joining Bruce Power approximately 8 years ago, as Deputy Chief Operating Officer for Areva Group. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Areva Group, it's an international organization, also has a lot of experience in the field of isotopes from Mike's time at Areva. And overall, Mike has had a 40-year career in the nuclear power and the energy sector. Mike is one of the greatest advocates for the role of medical isotope production using nuclear technology in Canada. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have you with me today, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, James. It's great to be here. We get to see each other often, but it's great to do a podcast like this on medical isotopes. I think as an industry, we can help so many people with cancer treatments, the sterilization. And it really is part of our mission in nuclear power to keep people safe and keep people well. So I look forward to today's discussion and really getting into the heart of medical isotopes and how we're expanding that production here in the nuclear industry.
No, Mike, thanks very much. And I think it's such an important issue for us to make sure people out there have this information. People understand that very meaningful role. And a number of years ago, you and the leadership team at Bruce Power really had a visioning exercise, and you looked at the company's vision and mission. And can you talk a little bit about that process that you went through to really renew that, looking ahead 50 years, 100 years, and how medical isotopes fit into that?
Yeah, sure, James. Every organization has to have a purpose and a meaning. When we looked at our vision and mission for the company, we've really outgrown it. And being sustainable in the long term, it was something we really wanted to make sure that we had in front of us. As an example, our vision is to power the future. So it's open-ended, it's something we do and do well. But our mission statement was really meaningful to the core of our people. We went out and talked to about 800 employees about what really makes you get up in the morning and want to go to work. Like, what is the purpose that we do? So we generated our mission statement around that. It's to safely provide clean, reliable, affordable electricity, life-saving medical isotopes, to strengthen our communities, protect the environment, and secure tomorrow. It's that last three pieces of our mission statement in strengthening communities, protecting the environment, and securing tomorrow really is about that vision of powering the future and making a better future. Medical isotopes fit in all of those categories about making a better future, strengthening communities, really having that forward look about how we could participate and generate goodwill and really help people around the world, people we don't even know, that are really sick, right? Cancer is a very deadly disease. And the fact that we can do that is something we ought to do. And I think it's really been embraced by our employees, by the leadership team. And, at that point, when you have that embracement and alignment around the team, you can set your sights really high. So the only limits are the limits that we set for ourselves at this point. So really excited about the innovation and the creativity and glad to get started down this journey.
So, Mike, you've been in the industry a long time, 40 years. You've worked, obviously, leading Bruce Power here in Canada. Your previous role with Areva was globally, but also here had an important role here in Canada. if we sort of look back at typically how the nuclear industry has articulated its values and its contribution, historically, medical isotopes have not been as prominent as I think we are making them today, as you articulated. Can you maybe just talk about sort of your perspective on how the production of medical isotopes has evolved in terms of how the nuclear industry views itself?
Yeah, I talk about it from a few aspects. Like it's something that we did in nuclear for decades, but we never really talked about.
Right.
And I think also the clean energy aspects, we were late to discussing the health value of clean energy from a nuclear energy perspective. And I think when you look at that, the health effects of both clean electricity and medical isotopes, it's a natural fit for our technology. As you well know, here in Ontario, Bruce Power's restart of our units helped the phase out of coal. With that, we went from about 53 smog days a year to 0. That means people with asthma can breathe better, cardiovascular disease is down, and those health effects fit naturally into our aspirations around medical isotopes. Now, Canada has been a leader in medical isotope production with nuclear for decades at Chalk River. You know, at some point, the Chalk River reactors closed, though, and it left that gap. And I think here at Bruce Power, we recognized that need and felt the need to step into that gap and really continue on that long-standing tradition, but more importantly, advance it to new levels. And with the scale of our reactors, we're able to make isotopes now at a whole different range of capacity than was ever imagined, decades ago. And I think that is the opportunity, the sustainability, the reliability of it, and the ability to make it at scale.
So Mike, I want to sort of walk through the evolution of sort of the last decade at Bruce Power with you in the medical isotope space. And the one isotope I wouldn't mind starting a dialogue on is one that you championed right out of the gate as the CEO of Bruce Power. And that was really meeting the need for high specific activity cobalt-60. Can you maybe just talk a little bit about what was so important about bringing high specific activity cobalt-60, building off the previous cobalt program, and why you felt that was an initial area of focus that made sense?
Yeah, sure, James. Like anything, you want to start and you want to be able to build on what you already do so that you have a clear path to success. We have a great partner in Nordion when it comes to cobalt, and they've been managing cobalt for a long time. So for us, it seemed like a natural synergy with our partnerships with Cameco and others to be able to look at how we were producing low specific activity cobalt and what we could do within our existing designs to innovate and create that. And as a result, we literally went from the drawing board within a year to 2 years to a finished product. And that's unheard of when you're coming up with new things. Like, that was really fast. It enabled us to continue our production of low specific activity cobalt-60 at the same time, and then naturally move into high specific activity cobalt in parallel. And what it's used for, high specific activity cobalt, is used in the gamma knife for cancer treatments. And when you think about that, that was our first entry into large-scale cancer treatment now, being able to power a gamma knife, being able to step into a void that was created with the shutdown of the Chalk River facilities, and really to start on our journey then of, okay, we did this, we can do this, let's take the next steps.
And Mike, I think what a lot of people, the great news is that Bruce Power was able to step in and fill that void, avoiding a supply shortage of HSA cobalt. But I think it's important to recognize from a Canadian perspective, had Bruce Power not stepped in to fill that void, the world would have had a shortage of this isotope. And I think it's really important for our listeners. Mike, one of the things you often talk about is the importance of supply chain. And if we look at the partners that Bruce Power has engaged, whether you talked about Nordion, you talked about Cameco, who manufactures a lot of this material, and our partners at Isogen, can you really, from your perspective, talk about the importance of finding the right partner and how you build that A team?
Yeah, that's a great question. I look at how we structure ourselves, right? Our employees are committed to doing this. When it came to medical isotopes, leadership matters. And in this space, it's in your business sector, and you grabbed onto that and have done a fantastic job with that and organizing a team. Partnerships are like that too. Like, you really have to have people that are aligned with your value systems and the mission, and really get excited about wanting to do the project. And this just isn't a project. Like, it's really about helping people. It's really about moving forward with cancer treatments. And as we looked at partnerships, we wanted high quality firms to be able to partner with us. But we also looked at our indigenous communities and how we could partner with the Saugeen Ojibwa Nation, creating a partnership called Gamzukaminakazawin that really fights cancer together. And then at the same time, their investment in the isotope field here delivers funds back to the community and also helps their community. So this commitment and this alignment really, really helps us to propel forward that vision. And then it comes down to technical savvy, like your partnerships that we have with Cameco, Kinetrix, Framatome, Nordion, ITM, really starts to create an echo structure that allows us to bounce ideas off of each other and really move forward with the innovation and creativity in a very disciplined manner so that we can implement it in a quick time frame and get to production soon. Why? People with cancer need help, right? They need help now. They don't need it 5 years from now. So that creativity and those partnerships, understanding that, really helps us work together well as a team and be able to advance very quickly when we set our minds on doing it.
No, and those partnerships are really important. And to your point, that speed to, I don't want to say speed to market, because as you say, it's about people. Speed to help people is really what it's all about. So Mike, you've seen the global supply chain when it comes to medical isotopes, from the processing to the production. We talked a lot about, and I know you've had the opportunity to engage a lot with the Canadian Nuclear Isotope Council over many years. You have been a consistent advocate for Canada playing a larger role in terms of the rest of the value chain with isotopes, and I think that's a leadership value that you have in a number of areas. Localization. Can you sort of just talk about, firstly, how you view localization in the Canadian supply chain, maybe broadly in your business? And then what should we take from that in terms of our aspirations in the medical isotope sector here in Canada?
Yeah, a few things. Like, when you're in one place, you create a cluster. When you can create a cluster, innovation then geometrically multiplies, because like-minded people working on similar things can get together. It gets back to those partnerships, can get together, innovate, create, and then produce. I think the localization helps that tremendously, as it cuts down on a number of variables that you just don't have to deal with. Also, from an aspect of creating economic development for Canada, for our areas, that dollar we spend here in Canada right now in our industry, 90% of it stays in Ontario, 95 to 98% of it stays in Canada. That builds GDP, that builds great jobs, that helps the university systems, so students getting out have great jobs to go to. It helps also with our building trades. And these types of jobs are high quality jobs that can go on for decades and decades and decades, and you create careers. And that's the value chain of it. If we simply just make the isotope and hand it off or ship it to Germany as we're doing today, or ship it elsewhere around the world without processing it, we lose the value chain of what we're able to produce here in Canada. And just being an exporter of commodities really doesn't help our universities. It doesn't help our social structure, our economic development through the region. So by vertically integrating and bringing that into Ontario, we're then able to realize all aspects of that value chain. We're able to create, to innovate. We're able to create those economic clusters and then begin to grow isotopes. Now, why can we do this? Because our nuclear reactors here in Canada, the CANDU, are uniquely situated to be able to produce medical isotopes at very large scales. When you look at some of the other systems that are out there to make isotopes, whether they're research reactors or cyclotrons, I compare it, it's like comparing a match to the sun.
Right.
So as an example, our low specific activity cobalt-60 that we make at our site, it's used to sterilize about 40% of all the once-use medical devices in the world. So you go to the doctor's or dentist's office, anywhere in the world, they take something out of a plastic bag that says sterile. It's a high chance that it came from an isotope we make. Now, we have the same ability to do that with other isotopes in our production systems that we're now putting into place. So these things start to add up, and that scale is something that we bring. So with that scale, we need to start to look at the full vertical integration chain, and then also ask the pharmaceuticals to come back and be able to make the medicines here so we can ship medicines around the world instead of just raw materials.
And Mike, I think that the pandemic was a perfect example of what you just articulated, where this worked and where it didn't. You had our nuclear fleet here in Ontario that was able to, stopped when was necessary, but able to safely protect workers with all the materials needed and safely progress these refurbishment projects because of that supply chain you're talking about. On the other hand, we had Canadians that couldn't get a vaccine because we didn't have that capability here. So I think there's some real learnings for us around supply security. And Mike, you've traveled throughout the world. Canada isn't a large country in terms of population. We're under 40 million people. So when we work with other countries in the G7, we're often, working with either south of the border, 10 times our population, 10 times ourselves, the European market, similar kind of size. Can you maybe just talk a little bit about, from a strategic point of view, Canada picking our places and why this makes sense for Canada and what it is you think we uniquely bring to the table in this?
Yeah, James, this is a great topic. We were just talking about some of the polling at the Business Council of Canada. When you look at polling for Canadians right now, they want our industry to lead in the world in spaces. They want us to be leaders. And when you look in this space with nuclear energy and nuclear isotopes, we are a leader. We're a world superpower in the production of isotopes. In fact, Nordion, it has about 80%, somewhere between 60 and 80% of the market for cobalt-60. We are a superpower in the production of this. And it's something that most Canadians don't know. Like, we have the ability to do this in nuclear space. Now, why is that? Because we have a fully integrated supply chain in this place. We have all the companies here that are able to make the pieces and the parts that go into our reactors. And as you brought up earlier, that's one of the reasons why during the pandemic, we had very limited impact from all of our production efforts to refurbish our units. We were getting parts predominantly from Ontario, and it enabled us to keep working. So this is a space that we can lead in. Nuclear energy, medical isotopes, we have a well-established system. We have well-established universities in these areas. And now we need to leverage that and take it into the production of medicines and expand that vertical integration and then continue down this path. We can grow this into whatever we want. We have the capabilities here in Canada to do it.
So Mike, if you projected ahead 10 years from now and you looked at the Bruce Power site, obviously the goal here is to have 8 units fully refurbished. From an energy perspective, maybe some other exciting generation on the way. From a medical isotope perspective, what do you think, looking 10 years down the road, where would you like to see Bruce Power in this space?
Yeah, I'd like to see the continued expansion of our isotope production systems to other reactors. We're making lutetium-177 now, which is being seen as a useful element for the treatment of many cancers, and that the growth of that commodity is expanding. With that, I would like to see us be able to vertically integrate in that element, to be able to make all the components here, to be able to do the dissolution here, and ultimately the production of medicines in Canada. Now, do we need to do it all here? No. But it'd certainly be great to see Canada become a manufacturing center for pharmaceuticals relating to cancer treatments. And once we can do that, why not have centers of excellence here in Canada for cancer treatments, using the medical facilities and the medicines that we're able to make?
And Mike, no doubt there's I call it a moral imperative to do this. We had the opportunity working with the Toronto Region Board of Trade this week. They held a life sciences symposium. And one of the facts that was shared at the life sciences symposium is that in the last several years in the province of Ontario, the province has been able to attract $3 billion in investment and economic activity. So it goes to show that in addition to doing the right thing, we can grow our economy, we can create good jobs.
The best kept secret is, like, if we can have a cancer treatment that is usable, we can do it at a scale that can't be matched. So we can make drugs that are not just available for a few people, but we can make drugs available for everybody. And we can make it at a scale where it becomes affordable. And I think that's the advantage that we have here in Canada with our CANDU reactors making medical isotopes. Affordable medicines with no more waiting lines for treating cancer.
And Mike, the last question, just a fascinating conversation. The last question I really want to pull on something that you raised earlier, because I think it's very unique and special. We know the importance of reconciliation with our First Nations communities in Canada. It's a historic challenge that as a country we haven't lived up to. And as we like to say, the only things we can control is what we do going forward. Can you talk about why the partnership that Bruce Power has with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation here, just how unique that is, and what it means for the community and reconciliation from your perspective?
Yeah, as we look at Bruce Power and the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, we're in their traditional territories. And as I look at this, it's our duty to be helpful in this regard. The Saugeen Ojibwe Nation needs to make their own decisions in terms of what they want to do and how they want to do it. We need to help facilitate those opportunities. Should they want to become a partner in advance, we're open for that. If they don't want to be a partner, that's okay too. In this area, we both saw value where we could come together and say, this is something that we want to do together to fight cancer, to help people. And I think it just helps forge relations and helps create bonds that potentially didn't exist for decades. And with that, the community is able to benefit. One, within a sense of identity externally around the world, that they're making cancer drugs that will cure cancers in people that they don't know, that don't live on this continent. And at the same time, it creates an economic value stream that goes back into the community so they can invest in infrastructure and other things that the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation determines they want to do. But I think it's the beginning. It's the start of something that can get bigger and bigger as we go forward, not only with medical isotope production, but with other things that Bruce Power is doing. And I think it also helps bring the capacity into the local communities, not just the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, but all of our surrounding communities, Grey Bruce and Huron County, to be able to create economic development there locally in a very rural region of Ontario and start to bring in infrastructure and other things that are sorely needed. So I just think it's a win-win for both organizations and also the municipalities and the counties that we live in, Ontario and Canada. And it's that whole vertical integration chain and really bringing economic development and the value chain here and then sharing it around the world.
Well, Mike, this has been a fantastic conversation. Congratulations to you and everybody at Bruce Power. I can tell you as a member of the Bruce Power team and employee, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the employee pride in this space. People go to work. Of course, there's a whole bunch of reasons for working and earning a living, but there's no doubt everybody at Bruce Power is pretty proud of what they do and making a difference. So thank you very much for joining us today on our Isotopes for Hope podcast.
Thanks, James. It's great to be here, and I think we just need to keep on going, right? And I think we'll be helping people around the world with clean energy and medical isotopes for many decades to come.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Canadian Nuclear Isotope Council Isotopes for Hope podcast with James Scongack. Please share this podcast and follow us to stay in the loop. To learn more, please visit our website at canadianisotopes.ca.